Hard Rock Casino, Northern Indiana, 2:47 a.m. A man in a dark polo shirt slides into seat 3 at the baccarat table. He places a pack of Marlboros next to his chips. Underneath the cigarettes, invisible to the dealer, invisible to the pit boss, invisible to the 11 security cameras pointed at this table, a smartphone. Screen darkened, camera recording. The dealer shuffles 8 decks together and offers them for the cut. Standard procedure. Happens 1,000 times a night. But this player does something strange. Instead of simply inserting the cut card, he reaches across and touches the dealer's hands, repositions them, tilts the deck toward the phone, then fans the cards with his thumb. Just for a split second, fast enough to look like a nervous habit, and the camera catches 30 cards in order. 30 cards, 30 futures. Every hand for the next hour, already decided. The man excuses himself to the bathroom. He passes the phone to someone in the hallway. That person walks to a hotel room upstairs, where a third man is waiting with a laptop. Frame by frame, they decode the sequence, memorize it, and 15 minutes later, the first man returns to the table wearing a flesh-colored earpiece so small it looks like a piece of skin. The voice in his ear tells him exactly when to bet. $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. He wins, and wins, and wins. 6 days later, the group will walk out of the Hard Rock Casino with $700,000. They will hit 10 more casinos across 6 states. They will steal over $1.5 million. And when investigators finally figure out what happened, they will accuse the wrong person, a young dealer who had no idea he was being used. By the time they realize their mistake, the 6 men will be gone, vanished, warrants issued, 0 arrests. As of right now, every single one of them is still out there. And the technique they used? Someone is doing it in a casino tonight. The technique is called the cut card scam, and it originated in Macau before spreading across Asia and eventually to Europe and America. The mechanics are elegant in their simplicity. Baccarat uses 8 decks of cards shuffled together, 416 cards total, and placed in a device called a shoe. Before play begins, a player is invited to cut the deck by inserting a plastic card somewhere in the middle. This is theater, mostly. A gesture meant to assure players the game is fair, that no one has stacked the deck. But it also creates a moment of opportunity, a few seconds when the cards are exposed and vulnerable. The game itself follows rigid rules that leave no room for player decision-making. 2 hands are dealt, one for the player and one for the banker. Each hand receives 2 cards initially, and strict formulas dictate whether a third card is drawn. Tens and face cards count as 0. Aces count as 1, and all other cards count as their face value. The hand closest to 9 wins. Gamblers can bet on either outcome or on a tie. The house edge is small, less than 1.5% on most bets, which is precisely why Baccarat attracts high rollers willing to wager thousands on a single hand. If someone can see the order of 20 or 30 cards in that 8-deck shoe, they know the future. Baccarat follows rigid rules about when the player and banker must draw additional cards, which means the outcome of each hand can be calculated in advance if you know what's coming. The house edge evaporates. Betting becomes not gambling, but harvesting. The group that hit the Hard Rock understood this perfectly. 6 men working in concert: Jianxiu Liu, Fuxiang Liu, Qingyong Zhang, Honghui Wu, Daixi Wang, and Yuhan Hu. Their roles were precise. One handled the cut, fanning the cards while a concealed camera recorded the sequence. Another carried the phone away from the table during a break, bathroom, smoking area, hotel room, where the footage would be reviewed frame by frame. A third studied the video and memorized the card order, sometimes watching the same few seconds dozens of times until the sequence was burned into memory. The remaining players received betting instructions through hidden earpieces, placing massive wagers at exactly the right moment. Coordination was everything. The player at the table needed to stall, asking for drinks, making small talk, pretending to consider his bets, while the analyst in the hotel room decoded the footage. A baccarat shoot takes 60 to 90 minutes to play through, so there was time, but not unlimited time. The memorized sequence might be 40 cards deep into the shoe, and if the team missed their window, they would have to wait until the next shuffle and start over. The bets they placed were not subtle. $10,000 on a single hand, $20,000 on the next, always toward the end of the shoe, when the memorized sequence finally came into play. To anyone watching the table, the pattern should have been obvious. 6 players suddenly betting the table maximum in unison, winning hand after hand after hand. But casinos are loud, crowded, chaotic environments, and the men at the table were careful. They moved between different baccarat tables throughout the night, testing dealers, probing for weaknesses. What they were looking for was inexperience. A dealer who had not fully internalized the procedures, who might allow a player to reposition the deck during the cut, who might hold the cards in a way that exposed the indices rather than hiding them. Baccarat dealers are trained to keep the deck oriented so that only blank card backs are visible. But training varies, and enforcement is inconsistent. A nervous dealer, a busy pit, an accommodating supervisor who wants to keep high rollers happy, any of these could create the opening the group needed. At Hard Rock, they found their mark. The dealer had been working at the casino for about a year, young, relatively new to baccarat, eager to please the Asian high rollers who dominated the table. When one of the players asked him to hold the deck differently during the cut, a superstition, the player explained, something about luck flowing in a certain direction, the dealer complied. Why not? High rollers have strange requests. Part of the job is keeping them comfortable. The deck rotated in his hands, and suddenly, the card indices were facing outward, visible to the camera hidden beneath the cigarette pack. Investigators would initially suspect this dealer of being an inside man. The wins were too consistent, the technique too smooth, the operation too perfect. Phone records were pulled, communications analyzed, interview after interview conducted. But the evidence pointed somewhere else entirely. The dealer had never spoken to any of the 6 men before they appeared at his table. He had no idea what he was enabling. He learned about the scam only weeks later, when casino security sat him down and showed him surveillance footage of his own hands repositioning the deck exactly as the cheaters had instructed. Manipulation, not collusion. The dealer was a tool, not a conspirator. The group's operation at the Hard Rock lasted less than a week and extracted over $700,000. Then, they vanished, moving on to the next target, the next state, the next inexperienced dealer who could be convinced to hold the deck just so. Jianchu Liu appears to have been the ringleader, a Chinese national, 47 years old, occupation listed as gambler on one arrest report. His technique was refined through practice at casinos across the country. At the Mohegan, Pennsylvania Casino Resort in Wilkes-Barre, security cameras captured him launching an app on his smartphone while seated at the baccarat table. He darkened the screen to prevent anyone from seeing what the phone was doing, then slid it beneath a stack of baccarat scorecards. When the dealer offered him the cut, Liu repositioned the man's hands, physically moving them to orient the deck in the direction he wanted. The dealer allowed this. High rollers, strange requests, keep them happy. But Liu got sloppy in Pennsylvania, or maybe just unlucky. A verbal altercation with a dealer who did not appreciate being told how to hold the cards. Walking away from the table in frustration, returning a few days later to try again, this time attempting to forcefully fan the deck during the cut. Casino security had already flagged him. They identified him through his player rewards card. The same loyalty program that casinos use to track spending in comp rooms also creates a record of exactly who was sitting at which table when the money started flowing in the wrong direction. Cross-referencing their database with alerts from other casinos, Mohegan Security discovered that Liu was already suspected of being part of a professional cheating ring that had hit the Golden Nugget and Imperial Palace casinos in Biloxi, Mississippi. The same MO at both locations. Players requesting unusual handling of the deck during the cut. Phones concealed beneath cigarette packs or scorecards. coordinated high-stakes betting toward the end of the shoe. Losses in the hundreds of thousands. The pieces were connecting. A warrant was issued in Pennsylvania on 2 misdemeanor counts of winning by fraud or trickery. Liu was arrested at Mohegan Sun around 4:30 in the morning on February 26, 2024, escorted off the floor while other gamblers barely looked up from their cards. Days later, he was arrested again at O'Hare International Airport, this time on Illinois charges. The same group had operated at Bally's Casino in Chicago, a venue so new it had barely been open a month before the cheating ring found it. They had also hit Hollywood Casino Aurora. Combined Illinois losses, $219,000. Liu pleaded down to misdemeanor theft, paid $10,000 in restitution, and was placed on 12 months conditional discharge. A slap on the wrist for a man who had helped steal over $1 million. The charges filed in Lake County, Indiana on June 2, 2025, tell the fuller story. All 6 members of the ring, Jianqu Liu, Fuxiang Liu, Qingyang Zhang, Honghui Wu, Daishi Wang, and Yuhan Hu, now face counts of felony theft and cheating at gambling. Warrants have been issued for their arrest. The probable cause affidavit details not just the Hard Rock scheme, but connections to casinos in at least 5 additional states: Illinois, Mississippi, New York, Pennsylvania, and California. The confirmed losses exceed $1.5 million. The actual figure is almost certainly higher. Casinos are reluctant to publicize how much they have lost to cheaters, and many incidents go unreported or are written off as unusually bad luck at the tables. What the court documents reveal is a network that was adaptive, mobile, and deeply familiar with the vulnerabilities of American casino security. The group moved constantly, never staying long enough in one location to trigger intensive surveillance. They targeted baccarat specifically because the game allows player participation in the shuffle process, that brief moment of the cut, and because baccarat attracts Asian high rollers whose presence at the tables would not seem unusual. They used technology that was essentially invisible: a smartphone app with a darkened screen, a camera lens no larger than a pinhole, earpieces that could be mistaken for hearing aids. The phones themselves were likely modified, fitted with tiny cameras on the top edge, capable of recording video at angles no standard phone could capture. But the crucial element was always human: finding the right dealer, observing how different employees handled the deck, testing boundaries with small requests. "Could you hold it this way? It's good luck," my grandmother always said, before escalating to the full manipulation. The affidavit notes that the group bounced around the different baccarat tables until they found dealers who intentionally let the group position the cards in a way where they were able to cheat. Not bribery, not corruption, just exploiting inexperience and the pressure to keep customers happy. The technique they used was not new. In March 2024, a group of 11 card cheats working in tandem stole nearly $180,000 from Swiss casino Zurich using the same cut card methodology, the largest casino scam in Switzerland's history. That group, later dubbed the Chinese 11 by investigators, had members living in Italy, working low-paid jobs in the textile industry between casino runs across Europe. Data retrieved from the ringleader's phone showed that they had already executed the scam in France and Austria before arriving in Zurich. Their technique was nearly identical to the American ring. The ringleader used a phone modified with a tiny camera on its top edge, positioned during the cut to capture the card indices as he fanned the deck with his thumb. He did not need to see the entire shoe. 20 to 40 cards would be enough to gain a meaningful edge. Since the baccarat shoe takes an hour or more to play out, he could walk away, review the footage, memorize the sequence, and return before the critical cards came into play. Security footage showed his conspirators bombarding the dealer with questions and requests at the precise moment of the cut, a coordinated distraction that drew attention away from the cards. The Swiss 11 made one mistake. They came back, returning to the same casino 2 days later to try the scheme again. They walked into a trap. Police were waiting. The ring was dismantled. And Swiss casino Zurich was later honored at the World Game Protection Conference in Las Vegas for the takedown. It was the largest casino scam in Switzerland's history. The American ring has not made the same mistake. As of now, warrants remain outstanding for all 6 suspects. Indiana authorities believe most, if not all, have left the country. The names on the charging documents, Liu, Zhang, Wu, Wang, Hu, correspond to no known addresses in the United States. They arrived, extracted $1.5 million from the American gaming industry, and disappeared back across the ocean to a jurisdiction where extradition is unlikely and prosecution is all but impossible. Law enforcement across multiple states continues to collaborate, sharing surveillance footage and suspect descriptions, building a database of known cheating techniques that can be distributed to casino security teams. Gaming commissions in Illinois, Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Mississippi have issued alerts. The Global Gaming Expo now features entire panels devoted to the cut card scam and its variants. Industry consultants travel from casino to casino, showing security teams the telltale signs. A player who touches the dealer's hands during the cut, a phone positioned face down on the table, scorecards arranged to block the view of overhead cameras, betting patterns that spike suddenly late in the shoe. Casino dealers are being retrained to keep the deck oriented correctly, to refuse unusual requests from players during the shuffle, to recognize the warning signs of a coordinated cheating operation. Some properties have installed additional camera angles specifically to capture the cut. Others have modified their procedures so that no player can touch the deck at all. A dealer handles everything, eliminating the vulnerability, but also eliminating a ritual that players have enjoyed for centuries. But the vulnerability remains. Baccarat is the highest revenue table game in American casinos, generating billions of dollars annually. The player cut is a ritual that dates back centuries, a gesture of fairness that customers expect and enjoy. Eliminating it entirely would feel like an admission that the game cannot be trusted. So casinos continue to offer the cut, and cheaters continue to exploit it. And the arms race between security technology and criminal innovation grinds on. Somewhere right now, maybe overseas, maybe already back in the US under new names, 6 men are counting their money and planning their next move. They know which casinos are weakest, which pit bosses look the other way, which dealers can be convinced to hold the deck just a little differently. They've taken at least $1.5 million, likely more that was never reported. The warrants sitting in an Indiana courthouse are just paper. The borders are open. The tables are waiting. Every night in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, Chicago, Philadelphia, thousands of players are invited to cut the deck, and no one knows which one of them has a camera hidden beneath a pack of cigarettes. The cut card scam needs no insider, no bribes, no corruption, just a camera, an earpiece, and a dealer who can be manipulated for a few seconds. It requires discipline, patience, and the willingness to move constantly, never staying long enough to be caught. Because the real weakness in any system isn't the cameras or the rules, it's the human being. At Hard Rock, Northern Indiana, that human being was a dealer with 1 year of experience. He didn't realize what he had enabled until investigators showed him the footage. By then, the money was gone. The crew was gone. All that remained was video of his own hands turning the deck exactly how they asked. He was cleared. No contact, no money, no connection. Just a man doing his job, unknowingly helping execute one of the largest casino scams in recent American history. The group that used him is still out there. 6 men, 6 warrants, 0 arrests. And somewhere tonight, at a baccarat table in a casino that thinks it has seen everything, someone is asking the dealer to hold the deck just a little differently, just for luck.